Okay, I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Committee of the Whole of Town of Westville to order. I'm going to start by saying that we are in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and we are all treaty people as we continue to work towards truth and reconciliation. Also want to acknowledge the contributions, histories, and legacies of the African Nova Scotia people who have been here with us for over 400 years. With that, roll call. Councillor Sarah McKinnon, Councillor Clary McKinnon, CAO Weirs, down to my left, far left, Recording Secretary Reid, Councillor McGregor, Deputy Mayor Murphy, and myself, Mayor White. So everyone is here that needs to be here. Any conflict of interest to declare? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on. So tonight we have three presentations actually, and first I'm going to call upon the representatives from the Natural Resources to talk about one of our favorite topics in town and most small towns and municipalities in the province, and that's the deer population, with some insight into perhaps any new advances on controlling the population and what we might be able to do in town with the deer population. And I'll just get you to come to the podium and introduce yourself if you don't mind, and take over.
Okay, so my name is Suzanne Adsit, and I'm now the area manager for Pictou County. I work out in the McClellan's Brook office, and I brought with me Scott McEwen. He's just here for his good looks and stuff. Yeah, you guys have deer issues. Just about every town now in Nova Scotia does. I'm not exactly sure. We were here a few years ago when we kind of presented everything. So I'm looking more for questions and answers would be easier for me to do. So what is your guys' main kind of thing that you're questioning now?
I'll open it up to council, but in general, at a very high level, I guess, like I said in my opening comments, basically, is there anything new and novel that has been determined as a possible deterrent?
No feeding. That is the big thing. Deer are going to go where there's food, and you've got your intentional feeding and your unintentional feeding. So intentional are people out there in your communities that are purposely feeding deer, and I've talked to many of them. And what I get from them is, I want to do it, and I'm going to do it, and there's nothing to stop me. So.
I was going to ask that question, in fact, if that's something that you do or would do if it reported to you that certain individuals appear to be feeding them, because let's be fair, let's be open and straight with this. We know there are certain individuals in this town that are feeding the deer.
Yeah.
It's obvious when you go and look at the properties, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, I get a few calls in the course of a year from people complaining about these people that are obviously feeding the deer. So what is the approach that you use in that case?
For me, it's education. So the deer, I don't know if you guys noticed, but town deer are smaller, right? We've noticed that when we get a dead deer, we always check the jaw and see how old they are. And we're finding that our town deer have cavities, so they're not eating the proper diets, right? They're getting too much sugar. Eat all those plants and the carrots and apples when those aren't in season. They're not supposed to be eating that stuff. Whereas our out in the wild deer that people hunt all come in, there's no cavities. We don't have those type of issues. So all these people who think they're doing so well by helping, they aren't, right? Because deers in the wild have 4 different seasons, and there's things that they're supposed to eat in those seasons. And when they come to town, they're eating stuff they shouldn't really be having. It's not healthy for them. So, but with them coming in, they're getting a lot of food. They're having more babies, and then you get the predators that are now following them in. And I know you guys have a ton of coyotes here too, because I get a lot of coyote calls. So those are things that the people who are feeding, they think they're doing good. And when you try to talk to them, they like to see the deer, and they like to have the deer in their yard. And I spoke to one lovely lady, very well educated, and she told me to get off her property, and she was going to do it, because that's so. As a town, you have the ability to change a bylaw and have no feeding of wild
Are you aware of other areas that have done that?
Nebraska did it, they
in
changed
ho-
their bylaw.
Are you aware of what the result of that has been? Or?
Well, I know that one of the feeders who just fed continuously no longer does it. So,
Were they charged, by the way? Do you know?
I believe she was, yeah, yeah.
And the
she-
courts, do you know if the courts,
I don't know, I wasn't there for any of it, I just know that
Yeah.
she did get
that's,
charged.
I guess that's a question that I have in my mind is, you know, how seriously would the courts deal with it if, and what kind of evidence do you need and all the rest of it? That's, you know, when you enact a law, it's easy to enact a law or bylaw, but
Yeah.
the enforcement
But you
part,
have to be very clear in that
Yes.
bylaw, right?
Right.
It has to be very clear, so you do not feed wildlife.
And who enforces that?
It would be your bylaw officer. Yeah, it's
Your,
not-
Your Worship, I think education does work with a lot of people, and for a number of years, only in winters where the snow was super deep and so on, my wife and I, on occasion, would buy deer pellets and feel sorry for the deer. We do have 6 acres in town, and when it became an issue, we in fact stopped doing that. And we don't have the number of deer on our property that we used to have. And at one time, a neighbor counted 28 in the field in the spring when they sort of all get together in the springtime. And we have not seen that in years and years. And I firmly believe that education with most people will work, and a bylaw would be helpful. But this is an election year in town, and this is a very divisive issue. We, in fact, have people that are so upset about plants being eaten. I have been the longtime president of the Garden Club, and I've heard a lot of people in the Garden Club over the years be so concerned about the deer. But for every person that complains about losing their hostas, which I call deer salads and don't mind sharing them with the deer because I guess that's natural food. However, the situation is that it's an issue that you have a lot of people that think the deer are really cute when they're on their property, and you see lots of pictures on Facebook of deer coming up close to the house, and people are so excited about them. For those that are running for council in October, I suggest that you take no action whatsoever at this time, because it's an issue that people do feel strongly about one way or the other. And
So with that though, education shouldn't be harmful.
oh yes,
Right?
yes,
Education.
and a bylaw too. But as far as doing what Truro did
Right.
with a cull, I think the last thing that you want to see in the town of Westville is a non-successful bow hunt incident where kids are going to Duggan School and there's a deer going around town with an arrow sticking out of it type of thing, right?
Well,
So
and
there's
that-
2 sides to that story too.
Yeah, and that would be a long time coming. So
Yeah.
to get to that point, you guys would have to do 3 years of studies. And that would entail you guys doing PGI surveys, which is a pellet group inventory. Those are like a kilometer long within your town limits. And you go out, you have somebody walk that 1 kilometer stretch and count all the piles of deer pellets. And you would do that each year for the 3 years. Then you would have road surveys that we would set up. Those road surveys would be done in the spring, they would be done in the fall. It's very particular what you have to do, and you count the deer as you go along. You're gonna count the fawns, you're gonna count the bucks, and you're gonna count the does, and then after the 3 years, all that information is compiled, do you have an issue with population? Or do you just have large groupings of deer that are all traveling together, right? So before anybody would ever allow a cull, you have to have your facts and your information first, right?
And what I would like to hear is the result of what happened in Truro, because it's my understanding that Truro still had a problem after a limited cull. And I don't think too many deer were in fact gotten rid of through that cull.
I don't know what last year's results were, but I do have, I think, which one was this? Yep, this would be last year's. So 39 deer were harvested between Truro and Millbrook last year.
That's higher than I thought it would have been too.
Yeah, so the
because-
first year, I think they allowed for 20 and they got 15.
Yeah, that was the year that I probably knew about.
Right.
I didn't know this 39.
Yeah, so that was the first year.
Thank you.
And then last year they did one, and they included Millbrook, and I know that they took out their youth and taught them how to hunt, so they used it as a learning experience too. And all the deer that Millbrook harvested, they used everything, the pellets, the hide, like just everything, right? So that was kind of really good for them, but they have that right beside them, so it works well.
Now, that would have driven up the numbers having Millbrook
Yeah.
involved as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
So as I understand it, the deer themselves travel in a small radius. They
Yes.
don't wander in a large area. They confine themselves
As long as they
to.
have a food source, they're gonna stay.
So the seven that, for example, for the seven that are on my property constantly would be the same seven, I'm guessing.
Exactly.
Pretty much, that
Yeah, give or
in
take
the
a few.
neighborhood.
One gets hit by a car,
Right,
somebody has a
right.
baby, you know.
Different than my 6.
Different than Bernie's six, for
Right,
example,
right,
yes. Yeah.
exactly.
And Deputy Mayor is a hunter, so he knows far more than I,
See way more on my
the
lawn
nature of
than anywhere
deer.
else.
But they're not the urban deer, so they're a different breed altogether,
They're
I'm
totally
assuming.
different breed.
Right.
They're different breed.
So just to be clear, I mean, the deer that people are seeing in the town of Westville would be deer that know no other life except the town of Westville.
Born and
Born and raised,
raised.
and we're probably on several generations now, I'm
Yeah.
guessing, since it began to be a problem.
Yeah. And you gotta think, the deer in the town are more protected,
Right,
right? So deer out in our woods, you know, there's a lot more predators. They do have predators here that are moving in. But I mean, it's the same reason that people move to town that the deer are here, right? It's easy, it's convenient. I mean, when they're out in the woods and there's a huge storm, they've gotta walk the trails. They have to use a huge amount of energy to keep going. In town, they lay down under your guys' trees in the backyard. We plow the streets, we plow the sidewalks. They get up in the morning and they go to somebody's house to eat.
right.
Life is easy in town.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the coyote issue is one that's concerning, obviously.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you have deer, you're gonna have coyote, right?
Coyotes.
But it
And
doesn't,
when coyotes get here, the deer are, again, we're always, in the animal world, it's always, you know, energy in versus energy out. So it's a lot easier to grab that cat than it is to go after that deer.
I guess that was my next question. Has there been any indication that the coyote are actually doing the job of diminishing the deer population at all?
I don't think that they are. I know New Glasgow, we just picked up a fawn that had been predated on, right? Because coyotes will clean up our system too, right? They're not totally bad. They're
Right,
not
no.
bad guys, right?
Right.
They're just doing what they
Yeah.
do. And they have to eat, so they're gonna
Right.
find it where they can.
Anything,
I'm just wondering, like, as a safety, it's a huge safety concern. Like, every time you know, my son leaves the house, I'm like, watch out for deer, watch out for deer. It's like a constant worry.
Yeah.
Part of the education, I think, might be to inform people of Westville, like how many people are hitting deer, are getting in accidents within our community. Like,
Definitely, and I think, do your police track that?
I'm not
Yeah,
sure if
they're
it just
supposed to
goes
be.
down as
It's-
accident
Nah, it's
or
supposed to be, between them and Public Works, they're supposed to be keeping a track.
yeah.
And we were
Because
told
I'd
last
like to
time.
know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know New
Yeah.
Glasgow does, that the New
Yeah.
Glasgow Town Police, they track,
Mhm.
how many deer are hit within the town.
Mhm.
I mean, that's great information, and that's
Yeah.
something you guys can definitely do.
Mhm.
And it's always good information for us to get too, because I know Public Works will often call us and say, oh, we got a dead deer in their yard. We don't know
Right.
where it came from, right? So it's a lot better for us to have that knowledge, because we have what's called a BIR system. And we put all of our sightings and all of, like relatable deaths and stuff and how they died, so that we can just go in and pull that up. We pulled it up for like last year, about 10 years back,
Right.
right? So it's great information to pass on to us too.
So I think the last time that we spoke here at council, there was some indication that there was a provincial study of some kind, and I don't know the terminology, whether to call it a study or what it was, that was hopeful that there'd be some information that might be made available through that process that would help towns and such as ours to deal with the deer population.
Yeah, I haven't
Do you-
really seen
do you-
anything.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that there's still not. I think what they were working on was the bylaw, like
Yeah.
the law itself for not feeding wildlife.
And that was
Yeah, and it was going to be a provincial.
And that was gonna be my question when
Yeah.
eventually was, is that still on the books? Are they still working on an
They're
R&R
still
for it, or
It's
like,
really- It's really hard.
Yeah.
Because if we did, province-wide, do not feed wildlife.
Yeah.
Right? Then all the hunters, there'd be no more bait stations. Right?
oh, I mean, it's how you draft it, right? I mean,
People
there's,
could feed their backyard birds, but that's the problem.
Yeah.
How do you draft it so that you can go to court and use it in a court case?
that's what really good senior policy analysts are for.
Yeah, exactly, that's not me.
But I think that was the approach, that
Yeah.
it'd be better served through, the bylaw idea, enforcement idea, if it was a provincial
Yeah.
law.
And I think that was part of the reason, Your
Across-
Worship, that we kind of even parked any of those initial discussions as well, is that we were maybe hopeful that that was
Right.
kind of the space that we could just collectively as a municipal unit kind of, if it ever came to fruition, just kind of rely on that as opposed to our own. Because if it was a provincial law, provincial statute, there would also be potential enforcement mechanisms that may be, DNR folks or conservation or,
Right.
that's the other piece that would have went along with it as well.
There would be, but you have to realize for us, in Victor County, we have two,
Yeah,
right? Two COs. And we have like a lot of towns.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna spend their total time chasing people
No.
within town. So really, it's a better option for the town itself to put that in than it is, I feel you would have,
This is the difficulty. I know, I've had people approach me with the suggestion of why doesn't the town enact a bylaw against feeding and so on? And my answer generally always is, with regard to that matter, that we can do that, but it needs to be enforced.
Yeah.
And the difficulties that entails to actually have that enforcement, have the teeth, in the bylaw. And that's why I think a provincial approach is a much better idea, personally, think that. Not that we get most things coming the other way, the province says, you need to look after that downloading, and maybe we like to upload some things, and maybe that's one of them, but not, seriously, I think, once again, I agree with Councillor McKinnon, the education, and I think, really, one of the main reasons that we wanted you to come again and speak to us, hopefully, is because we do have other people that are hopefully going to be seeing this presentation through our YouTube channel, and we'll get it out there, I think, on our webpage and Facebook and so on, as much as we can. That the one big thing is the feeding,
It
just
is.
to not feed. I said before, sitting here and looking into the camera, and I'll do it again, say, please do not feed the deer. Don't force us to have to come up with a bylaw and start enforcement. Please, just do it.
Right? Like people who call us with bears, they call in the spring, bears in the green bin, bears in our garden,
Right.
bears in the barbecue, bears in the birdseed. You take all that stuff away, and the bear goes away,
Yeah.
right? So
Right. Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
Like, we know that it works.
Well, like I say, I have very little knowledge when it comes to the science of it all and so on, but that's why I appreciate you
Yeah.
saying, number one, that people think that they're doing the deer a good service, but yet if you're finding deer that have cavities, that's a new one on me. I did not know that from the food that they're eating. And I would think then, if that's the case, there are other
There are other.
physical, health problems that would be related to the defeating by people of the deer that, rather than what they're getting in the wild.
Yeah, exactly. There's people, I don't know exactly what she fed. It was Truro. I think it was Truro anyway, one of these towns. And thought doing a great thing, wintertime, lots of snow, and put like horse feed out, like oats and molasses.
Oh,
And killed 4 deer in her backyard.
wow,
And called us like, oh my goodness, 4
Yeah.
deer died in my backyard.
wow.
But they can't handle that. Their stomachs aren't meant for that. So you have to kind of, know what a deer can eat,
Yeah.
right? Different times of the year.
I wonder if there has ever been an approach made to the sterling operations of the province, because so many people don't realize that the apples are so bad in the wintertime. And most of they're actually called deer apples, and they're bruised a little bit, and lots of people buy them and make applesauce, and they're really good apples, right? But they are sold as deer apples, so maybe,
And see, that's
with-
part of that whole thing with province-wide,
Yeah.
feeding, all those things have to be looked at, right? And that's one of them.
yeah, I just had that thought about
That's
sterlings.
specifically
because-
geared to the hunting population, I'm guessing, Councilor
It
McKinnon,
was.
Yeah,
the
that's
advertising of the deer apples.
Right, because now they do it,
Now it's beyond that.
right, like, once hunting season stops,
It's
the
still,
deer apple should not be available.
right,
anymore.
right, okay.
But they are, and they're purchased in great numbers.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah. So someone suggested to me on Facebook today, because I mentioned that we were discussing this evening, that we have one day a year that we invite the deer, allow people to invite the deer into their kitchens and hit them over the head with a frying pan, and then, take care of them that way. I thought that, but that's about as good as an explanation as I've heard, really, or a suggestion,
Or oats and
suggestion, I
molasses.
should say. So,
But I will.
but, we can laugh about it and so on, but yet, we all know that the report is that in the past year, and not that many months ago, we had one fatal accident that we can attribute to, I should say, the fact that they tried to avoid a deer and consequently resulted in an accident that took their
And
life.
A new problem that is arising is poaching the deer. So we have, as everybody knows, a lot of homeless. A deer will do them for quite a while. So I've heard rumors of the fact that they are, so might help population control, but really still not a great idea,
No.
right?
Wow.
So
That's interesting, yeah.
It's another aspect.
Right.
And
Yeah, there's so many different aspects to this deer population. The first one that everybody thinks about is the destruction they havoc on our properties, eating our flowers and plants and anything of that nature. But that's the least of the problem. That's a very minor thing. It's an inconvenience and it's annoying, and we all admit to
But
that.
it's also harm to the deer.
Right.
Right, like
Right.
over everything else, the people who are feeding, in the end, you're not helping, you're actually harming that species. So that's the big education, let alone the people that are hitting them with their cars.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible way for that deer to die, it's also very costly for the individual who's in them.
So, I'm thinking even if the province were to undertake a major advertising campaign, to educate people around this would be helpful, let alone enacting legislation, right? So that's always the start, and that would be very helpful to everybody in the province, all towns and citizens, I think, if that was a constant reminder in education. I mean, it's worked with other things that are, that are negative, that have a negative impact on our population. There's no reason why it couldn't work with that. So we'll put it out there to our.
Well, I'll take it back.
Take it back. Thank you very much. That's good.
Yeah, but remember, I'm just a picture
Yeah.
county. So.
Every voice matters. Every
Yeah,
voice
but I mean,
matters.
your guys' YouTube channel or your Facebook page, that is a great way, that's social media to get that information
Yeah.
out,
Yes.
right?
And knowing full well, as Councilor McKinnon has said, we'll get pushback. We'll get those people that feel they're doing the right thing, and we'll decide, as as you mentioned, I think that the response you got when you approach someone, you know, it's my choice. And right now it is, you know, it is their choice.
It is.
Absolutely.
But I mean, that brings other things too, so the reason that I got the call was because the neighbor watched the rats clean up the food in that person's backyard.
Mm,
So,
yeah. It's a major issue, it really is, and as long as I've been on council, it's been there, you know, well before I came as well. But it's grown in the last 10 years specifically around the province. You know, it's been discussed many times, and there doesn't appear to be any easy solution, perhaps, you know, other than what we're talking about tonight, and that's education, getting the word out.
yeah, it would be good to actually check your population,
Right, that's the
Right.
other thing.
right? So that 3-year study I would push you to do that, just to see like, what is it now? Is it growing or isn't it? Is it
So
staying the
just to answer, just to ask on that one further thing.
Yeah.
So that study, who undertakes, what
So we can-
responsibility would the town have to do that?
So we can set it up for you, so like, find the areas to do the transect lines, what roads you can do, and then it would be up to you guys to do it. So like, we'd take you out, show you how to do the PGI, show you how to do the road survey, but then it would be up to you guys to actually, and that would take like 2 people.
Are you familiar with how Truro did it? Did they contract it out, or did they just undertake it with
I
like their own
honestly
staff,
don't know.
or, yeah?
Yeah.
So it would take a couple people to do that, to undertake that process?
You mentioned the poaching issue. Poaching has in fact taken place in the town of Westville. You hear shots sometimes at very strange hours at night, and you assume that it could be someone poaching, but at one point in a wooded area within the town limits, and this is dangerous if people are in fact shooting deer within our town limits, and I found in a wooded area an indentation, a shallow area that was dug out, which was being used as a blind at one time, because there were the remains, the bones of 2 deer close to some bones where part of the deer was actually, of both deer, were actually left in the woods. And and there was no sense reporting it to police because it was probably 2 or 3 years before, right?
Yeah.
So that in itself. Now, we have a guy here who has done a good job for a lot of years, and he might have something to add. I'd hate to have Scott come out here tonight, but I'm not putting you on the spot, but
Yes, you are.
I know you've done a good job, and before we wrap this up, I wanted to pay a tribute to you at least, and not put you on the spot. But you've always been around, and you've been around for quite a few years, I think, too.
Wow.
But my family has a lot of history here in Westville too. My dad grew up here on Queen Street, so
Exactly. He sure did, yeah.
all the time as kids coming up, watching the parade, going to the fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he went on to do some good things, too. Yeah.
And everything was Westville.
Exactly, yeah.
Everything.
And,
He lived in Glasgow, but everything he did, he came to Westville.
and my parents always voted for him as well. Never failed.
Question, when you agreed to do the 3-year study for the population check, at the end of that study, do you have to, like, are you 100% yes, we're doing the call? Or is it
Oh,
just
it's
like,
still up to the
you
town,
can still
right?
just be like, okay, we
Absolutely.
see, and it's not really increasing that much, so we're
Yeah.
good? Or, yeah, okay, it's getting
Yeah,
really,
this
really
is-
bad, and this is what we need to
So,
do,
and
yeah.
that's all it is.
Yeah.
It's just information, gathering
Yeah.
information to help you guys
I think
make
that's a good thing to do.
So it gives you a sense of what the population is, where they are prevalent, and things of that nature, correct?
Yeah,
That-
exactly.
Where they're traveling, and, yeah, the hot
Which
spots, so to
helps you
speak.
too, like, where do you put up those deer crossing signs,
Right.
right? So that
Right.
might be something that's.
I did comment before the meeting, and it's true.
Oh, they do. They
It appears
cross
that
the crosswalks.
when we designate, when we indicate that there's a place where they're crossing repeatedly, and we put those signs up, you can see it. You can see them crossing at those, and I've said jokingly, and probably seriously, that they seem to be better behaved than pedestrians when it comes to that part of their
Oh, yeah.
activity. They actually adhere to the signs, and they cross at the crossing, and they line up, and they look both ways before they cross. There's one near Councillor McKinnon's, I know, and I see it constantly. So it's quite amazing.
Well, it's cute to watch them on the.
But I think that showed,
Yeah, they do.
but the thing that tells to me is that, you know, that's that urban deer mentality, right? That they learn things that the deer in the wild would never do.
Yeah, they don't have reason to, right?
So it's, yeah,
Animals adapt so much
Right.
better than we do.
right.
So that, you know, everybody always says that all these town deer, it's because we've cut their forests down.
Mm.
That's not why they're here. They're here for the same reason we're all here. It's just easier. It's so much easier for them, right?
Right.
And I mean, hunters are, where do they hunt? They're hunting those clear cuts. So that's where the deer are. The deer like the cuts as much as, you know, there's more food there. So it's not forestry.
Anything else anyone has? Okay, thank you very much. It's been very helpful again. And, you know, from an educational point of view, more than anything else, I think that's the key,
Yeah, I'd
right?
like some more info on the study. Yeah.
Get a hold of us, so.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah, we will. Thank you very much again. All right, yeah, you're free to roam about the cabin, yes.
See you, Scott. Take care.
The next item on our agenda, presentation-wise, to follow up on Councillor McKinnon's, segue from Councillor McKinnon's comments about the election coming. We're delighted that Josephine McDonald, the returning officer for all the units in Pictou County, could be with us this evening to talk about the election preparedness and what's involved in running a municipal election. Josephine, it's all yours.
Thank you. Don't think I'm going to be as nearly as interesting as what just took place. But it is an important year. It is our municipal election year. For all of you that are re-offering, for anybody out there that is contemplating re-offering, I would really suggest you get in touch with our office ASAP. In order to file nomination papers, you have to book an appointment. Everybody thinks that, oh, it's a long time away. In 2 weeks' time, we will be all through filing nomination papers. Our appointments are booking up. I go to each of the towns at certain days. If those dates are booked up, then you either have to go to another location if there is an appointment available, or you will have to wait and come on nomination day, which is September the 10th. September the 10th is first come, first served. So if I have a lineup and you wait till September the 10th, you might not get your papers filed because your papers have to be filed by 5 o'clock. So anyone that is contemplating or thinking about, or those of you that are re-offering, please call the office as soon as possible and get your appointments made. I want to talk a little bit about anybody that is contemplating running. You have to pick up nomination papers. I have left the nomination papers at the town office here, and they are at any of the other town offices. You have to have $200 cash or money order, and Form 3. You get Form 3 from your office staff downstairs, which declares that you owe no money for taxes to the town. And that's whether or not you rent or own property. If you rent, you might think that, well, I don't pay taxes. I have to have that paper. So regardless of whether you rent or not, you have to have that paper. You have to have at least 5 signatures. 5 signatures is compulsory, but I always suggest you get more than 5 for the simple reason that if one of those electors are not on the list, then it's another trip to get another signature and come back and make another appointment. person's name, their address, and then their signature. Okay? Right now, we are into revisions. We are trying to push revisions. The better job we do of revisions, the better our lists get. Anyone that has moved into the town of Westville, or has even changed their address, they should be contacting our office. And I'll give the number of right now is 485-2253. That's the number you should be calling. Also, anyone that turns 18, anybody that turns 18 should be contacting and getting their name on the voters list. One of the reasons that we're suggesting that you call and get your name on the list, we're going all electronic this time. Total, no paper. So in order to vote electronically, you get a letter in the mail. If you are not on the voters list, you will not get a letter in the mail. So that is one of the reasons that we're really trying to push revision to make sure that, even if you call, to make sure that you are on the voters list. And you'll be surprised how many people think, I've lived here for 40 years, my name should be on the voters list. But for whatever reason, they're not there, okay? And then we're going to be getting calls stating that I didn't get a letter. We didn't get a letter because you're not on the list, okay? So anyway, but that doesn't mean, if you do not get a letter in the mail, that doesn't mean that you cannot vote. What it means is we will have a help desk set up, and what will take place is then you will have to call the help desk. We will then register you and then give you your PIN number, either over the phone or whatever way you want to receive your PIN number, which will allow you to vote. So again, just because you didn't get a letter doesn't mean you can't vote. But those of you that are going out campaigning, and maybe the town of Westville won't even have an election, maybe you'll all go in by acclamation. But if you are going out campaigning, that's one of the things you should be knocking on the doors and saying, are you on the voters list? Or have you moved? Is your address changed? A lot of places now, in the county now, our addresses, our civic address has changed. A lot of places, I don't know with Westville, a lot of places are really pushing post office boxes.
Yes, that's it, that's
If
true.
we don't have post office box numbers, you're not getting your letter. Because we all know what Canada Post is like. They, it's never in their job description, even if they're going right by your door or right by your mailbox. If it doesn't have the correct information on that letter, it's not going in your box.
Yeah.
So,
That has, by the way, that is a very important point, because we've had experience from the town's perspective of sending out notices and bills and so on, that did not require a post office box previously, but in the last couple of years, they made that change, and it absolutely has to have the post office box. So very important thing to emphasize, and we will do that. We'll emphasize that you need to make sure that your address that's on the voting list,
yeah.
that you're so you can get your PIN number and so on to vote, has that post office
And a
box.
lot of people think that maybe they just moved the street over or whatever. Doesn't matter where you moved. If you've moved in the last 4 years, even in the last year if you've moved, you're not going to be on the voters list. The way we get our information is through your driver's license. And a lot of people, your driver's licenses are good for 5 years. A lot of people do not want to bother getting it updated because of expense or whatever. So they just leave their address on their driver's license. So as long as their driver's license has an old address, that's the address we have too. Okay? So anyway, the next thing, all the dates that I will be in servicing nomination papers, on the 29th of August, I will be at the MOPC office. And again, any of these dates, if they accommodate any of the towns better or whatever, if I have appointments, I will put you in those days. Westville, I will be here on August the 30th, and that's from 9 to 4. And you cannot just pop into the gym or wherever I'm going to be with your papers and say, I'm here, you're supposed to, you have to have an appointment. I'll be there on Tuesday, September 3rd, Trenton, Wednesday, September 4th, Pictou, September 5th, New Glasgow, Friday, September 6th, and back in the county office on September 9th, which means anybody can come to any of those dates. And again, on September 10th, which is the regular nomination day, it's first come, first served. As I stated before, this year being totally electronic, we are going to offer a service that we're going to set up kiosks, and there'll be one in each of the towns. And what that will be, for anyone that doesn't have good internet or doesn't have access to a laptop, or they're just not sure on what they're going to do, we will be having a kiosk set up in each of the towns. It's not an advanced poll. It's not for anybody just to come and go. It's only for those that need assistance or feel like they are having trouble doing it on their own, okay? Those dates are October 12th, October 15th, and those times will be from 12 to 8, and on election day will be from 8 to 7. This year, and the places that they will be set up at in the county, there'll be one at the Wellness Center and one at Scottsburn Fire Hall. The reason the county is having two is because of the vast area between the two. New Glasgow's will be set up at Summer Street Industries. Stellarton will be set up at the Fahey Community Center. Pictou will be at the old CNR station. Trenton will be at the Trenton Rink Annex, and Westville will be at the gym. Anyone requiring assistance, they're more than welcome to come to these particular spots. Okay, with saying about advanced polls, the reason we do not call these kiosks advanced polls, because they're not advanced polls. With electronic voting starts October 6th. So your advanced poll actually starts October 6th. And that starts at noon time. So for 24/7, from October 6th to 7 p.m. October 19th, you can vote. Any time of the day, night, whatever you wish. The only thing that is required is your PIN number and a date of birth. So if you do not get a letter, then make sure you call the help desk. That number will be on the letter when you receive it. There will also be ads put in the paper for all this information. But again, I'm only as far away as a telephone. If any of you have questions, you know anybody else that has questions, feel free to telephone call me. Are there any questions on anything that I spoke on?
Josephine, I just have one quick one, and that is, you mentioned the residency requirement, you know, that you, and particularly pointing out to people that may be new in town, may not be on the list, or people that just turned 18.
6 months.
Okay, that's
6 months.
that's what I was asking.
Yeah, 6
So
months
so
from,
if
from October 19th.
6 months prior to October the 19th, if you're a resident of Westville
18 years of age.
and 18 years of
and a
age,
Canadian citizen.
yes, you are eligible to vote in the town election.
But
Correct.
my main concern is trying to get everyone a letter in the mail.
Yes,
Okay? So if you're talking to anyone
yeah.
of campaigning, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's vitally important because of the fact that you mentioned about the post office change that, and we're well aware of that in the town because, as I said, we've had that experience of things coming back or people not getting their notices or not getting their bills because the post office box was not on it. So if you have a post office box, that must be on your address, you
And
know.
one of the things that I find too, people, nobody thinks about an election until they don't get their letter. And then they get in a panic. But one of the biggest things is you as candidates and going out and talking to each of the people or anybody, tell them there's an election going on. Because the first thing you'll hear after an election is over, and they'll say, oh, so-and-so got in it. I didn't even know there was an election going on. You'll hear that every time.
Even though the sign should give it away.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
there's been numerous ads and so on already from your office, over the last month in particular. But, I know what you're saying. People just don't necessarily see that.
With newspapers being as obsolete as they are becoming, I do place ads in Saltwire and
Yep.
in the Advocate.
Right.
And I really emphasize with each of the towns to make sure that they're putting this information on their websites and on Facebook. That is our biggest thing right now. But that's not the legal way of doing it. As a returning officer, we have to put it in newspapers. And with so many people not getting newspapers and things like that, I depend on people like yourselves getting that information out there as well.
And I think the big thing, Josephine, to emphasize once again, and which you've mentioned, is the fact that those people that are looking at running for office in any of the towns and the county, the filing for those positions starts on the 29th.
On the 29th.
And that's only a little over a week away, I guess, a week from Thursday.
And a lot of people I talk, well, the election's not until
Right,
19th of October.
and that's what I'm coming
What are you
to.
all this for now?
Exactly.
But I've been in my office since May 1st.
Right. So the filing starts on the 29th and goes to the 10th, which is a dead stop on 5 o'clock on the 10th of September. Papers must be filed if you're looking at running. And the other thing that's I think is new and people wouldn't be aware of is what you mentioned with regard to the fact that it's electronic voting, and it starts on the 6th of October. So the election is not very far away. The actual voting for the election is a lot
Sunday,
faster than people think, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's, it opens it up that, the hope that we all had, I think, in the county, in all the units of going to electronic voting was to open it up to enable more people to be able to vote, because it's so easy once you have your PIN, right? And you can vote from October the 6th to October the 19th, at any
A lot
time.
of the controversy when you go to electronic is, what are the old people going to do?
Right.
When we do our demographics, it's the age from 60 to 85 are the most people that use the system.
Yeah.
So you can't blame it. It's the younger people that we have to emphasize to get out to vote. So.
Just a quick question for you, Josephine. I know it's a different provider for the electronic voting this year compared to 2020. It was a different.
No, we're still using the same.
It is the same? Okay, I was thinking it was
We
different.
were going to go with another one, but we're back with Intel, which I'm very happy to be with.
Okay. That's news to me, but that's neither here nor there. So does that, I guess my question really is in and around, will candidates still have access to the back end that they had for campaigning? Like,
You will have all that.
everything?
As a
Yeah.
candidate, once you file nomination papers, you will have access to the voters list.
yeah,
On your screen, it will tell you who voted every day, and not how they voted, of course.
right.
That they voted.
Yeah,
That they
yeah,
voted,
that's right.
which is a big plus for all
Absolutely.
candidates,
Yep.
because then you don't have to knock on that door or make that phone
Oh,
call.
that's right. Yes,
So it's a very good system.
perfect.
Yeah, so we're hopeful that the voter turnout will be, significantly higher. We like to see that. We like to see people obviously participating in our process, the election process. It's kind of important every 4 years. So we encourage people to take the necessary steps that you've outlined, Josephine, with regard to making sure that they're on that list and that they get their information to enable them to vote. That's the key, right? And the other stuff, hopefully anybody that's thinking about offering for office, whether it's in Westville or elsewhere in the county, are aware of what needs to be done by now. I mean, it's like like we just said, we think of October the 19th, but it's a lot faster than that.
Oh, yes.
We're talking September the 10th, which isn't that far away,
Oh, I know.
right, for that decision to be made. So encourage people to, once again, I encourage people in Westville to consider putting their name forward for office. It's an important thing in our community, and we want people to be able to have choices, so please do that.
And I really hope everyone will check in with us to make sure that they are on the voters list. And again, if they have any children that have turned 18, to make sure they get them on the voters list.
Absolutely.
Okay?
All right, thank you very much,
Awesome.
Josephine.
Thanks,
And
Josephine.
people know how to reach you, I believe by now. It's well publicized, and we'll have it on our page as well, the contact information that's required there. All right. Moving on to our third and final presentation. As people are hopefully aware, most people, it's been well publicized as much as we can in town that we're undertaking to do a project with regard to our water meters, installing new water meters throughout the town and updating those ones that exist now. And we have some representatives from Kelly Consulting with us who are going to be actually doing that work for us in the next months to come. And I'll just get you to introduce yourself, and the floor will be yours.
Certainly, my name is Bill Kelly. I'm Eugene Kelly. We'll be starting to do your residential locations probably in maybe another month. We actually just started doing some of your properties in there last week, some commercial properties. We actually have product on site now for the larger portions of the meter services. So anything 1 inch and above or 3/4 and above, we have some. Right up to 6 inch. So we'll be doing those in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll start getting shipments coming in September for larger portions, so we can start in different areas of the town. We're going to break it up into like 200 to 250 accounts in certain geographical areas, so we can start moving through your town. Makes it a lot easier to do the work. It's a lot faster. It's not having a lot of customers wait. If we're at one end of the town now and 20 minutes later we have to be over at the other. So we'll be starting to roll that program out in September, at which time we'll be we'll be mailing notices to those 250 people, asking them to call us or go online and book the appointments to our website. And at that same time, we'll be going door to door for people who haven't booked. So we're anticipating probably we'll have till July to finish it, but long done by July. With any luck, we have a nice winter.
So we'll be done by the next summer.
Hopefully it might be done by January, it might be done by December. It depends on how much product comes in at what time. It's the same as every other business, every other widget. It's just a supply chain. So when we're able to get access to it, we have some promises from the manufacturer that they're going to come in. So if they stick to that, we should probably be done before the end of the year. But if we have any delays, it may move into 2025. But this type of a program, because we're not doing a lot of plumbing in your home, all we're doing is shutting off your water, loosening up 2 connections, putting in a new meter, documenting all that information so that the town can start a new bill. So that's very quick. So we may be doing 20 a day. And if we can get into the homes, we can probably do 40 a day.
Right.
So the more people that contact us or let us in at the time we're going door to door, faster we get it done. That's the hardest part of this, is getting into the
Yeah. Is there, in other communities that you've worked in, is there people that have actually refused access or like wouldn't allow you to do that?
always is.
Yeah.
There always is a couple, and you probably already know them right now.
Yeah.
So we're having an open house on the 28th, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that for sure will be any people that have questions or concerns, great to bring them out, because most people just don't know what it is that's going on.
Right.
So when you have them in front of them and answer the questions, usually they're pretty,
More reasonable.
for sure.
Yeah.
There's always a few. The open houses, we make sure there's no donuts, no coffee, so that people don't stay around all evening. They're just coming to get their business, get their questions answered. That's all we're there to do there, is just tell them what we're gonna be doing and show them what the product is. So we're hoping people come out.
Yeah.
The more that come out, the less people we're gonna knock on the door and say, "You're not coming in here?"
Yeah.
That's when your worship and council are gonna have something in place that says, well, they are going in there.
Right. See it works? Okay. Yeah, I think it's very important that we get the word out, and I know we've advertised it to this point in time, and we will continue to. It's a week from this Wednesday that we're going to have the public meeting here in Chambers here for people to get the information from you directly, so that people are aware. I mean, I know the one, I think after we put it out, some of the questions that came was, well, why? Why are you doing this? Why do we need a new meter? Obviously, that's the first question, and quite surprisingly, I think there were a few other comments. Well, why do we need a public meeting? You made the decision, you're doing it, just come and do it, sort of thing, which struck me as kind of strange. But anyway, I understand where that comes from, I believe. But you know, what we want to do is get as much information out before you start the process, so that people are aware, there's no surprises, and there's an understanding of why we're doing it, and who you are, right? And you'll be well identified, I'm guessing, you and your people, when you come to the door, that the people there'll be no guesswork as to who you are, or why you're there. That's important. Right.
It'll be just our company logo, like an internal badge with their picture on it, and it'll have their position, usually it's dollar written on it.
Right.
And also, they should be showing up with some sort of branded clothing, whether it's a shirt, a hat, and patch it on their vehicle as well.
Right.
If I might, Your Honor, so again, just to the why question, the vast majority of Westville's meters are 25 to 30 years old. End of life expectancy for those sorts of instruments, for lack of a better word, is about 20 years. And so we know that most meters in Westville are reading incorrectly, one way or another. And so we're replacing them all so that everybody's got the best possible measure of the water they use. And I think overall that means, it's better for everybody. The other thing is tax bills are going out shortly, and there will be an insert in those tax bills identifying the fact that the water meter project is going on, and that as Bill and Eugene have noted, on the commercial side, they're already replacing some meters, and that the residential meter replacement will start in September at some point. And as they said, that's largely governed by the availability of meters to put into people's homes.
All right, anything, Councilor McKinnon?
Just a question in relationship to the life expectancy of the new meters. A lot of things are made better today than they used to be. However, so many things are, we're in a replacement world with appliances and so on. Appliances used to be made that they lasted for a long, long time. You got a fridge or a stove and you could expect it to be almost a lifetime. And now some things are not made as well. What life expectancy do you expect that we will get out of these meters?
So you have full replacement warranties for 10 years, and then you have another warranty that carries on for another.
Prorated at 10 years, so it reduces every year until it gets to the full 20 minutes.
Right.
That's the life expectancy is 20. So the meter we're installing are mechanical meters, so a lot of the exception, I believe, the one largest meter, which is the 6-inch, is a ultrasonic meter. But so all the mechanical meters, which is most likely most what you have now, they don't, when they die, most of them don't really die. As they get older and older, parts will start to wear, and some you might notice that right away it'll be dead. You're not reading it anymore. Some of them, it might take a while to notice as it slowly loses accuracy. So these meters are mechanical, so it'll be a similar scenario that there are physical parts in them. So you could, a lot of the meters in this town, like Scott was saying, are 25 plus years, but they do read somewhat, although accuracy is, that's what you usually start to notice is more and more losing accuracy. So if it really comes down to it, you can stretch them a bit. Like it's usually better to plan for 20-year mark that you're going to need, these things are going to start losing accuracy. lot of the newer meters, residential, that are being sold are ultrasonics, whereas the thing that limits them is more battery. Whereas with these meters, it's just the parts wear down. So with those ones, a lot of them have a hard cap. If their lifetime is 20 years, you can expect around 20 years that they're going to be shutting off, and then there is no dwindling accuracy. They're just out of power, and you're going to have to replace them. Whereas these are more, you'll slowly start to see more and more every so many months, within a year, somebody will start dying or losing their accuracy.
And there seemed to be a concern perhaps about the supply chain. Where would they be coming from?
Not really, the product that we have comes from Montreal. We ship it
Yeah.
from Montreal, so-
Yeah. Are they manufactured there, or are they coming from China? Or they're in the U.S., right? Okay.
The boundary, and I'm not sure exactly what state, but it's one of the southern states.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
So we're anticipating getting the product. It's not to alarm you that we may not get the product, but like I said, with everything today, no matter what widget or what you're getting, whether it's a carrier or a bottle of pop, you don't know if you're gonna have it on the shelf tomorrow. All you gotta do is say, no, I don't think we will, and every bit of it's gone, so. It's the same with this industry.
Well, and there's the
Any inclination,
looming
there's a
train
chip
strike.
problem or something, all of a sudden you're not getting it.
Right.
We don't anticipate.
The other thing, and I don't, you don't need to get into great detail, because we are going to have that opportunity for those that want to know on the 28th. But the difference in these meters is as far as what they will provide, in addition to being accurate, giving us an accurate reading of the water usage. But as I understand it, there's more to the meter. They do more. They enable us to do more. They give more information, I guess, is what I'm coming to, than our current meters do. And not only that, they cut down on the necessary physical reading by workers in the town. So it's going to cut down on that aspect of the work as well. Is that correct?
So when we're actually doing the work in the homes, when we start, we usually find a lot of their leakage right away. So we're gonna put in a new meter model, we're gonna see the actual usage showing up on the meter when we know there's nobody using water in the house. So when we do that, we tell the customer, you probably got a leaking toilet, and they'll say, oh yeah, my toilet sweats, or they'll be able to know that, yeah, that's using water. So before, it probably didn't get registered on your meter, because the way these mechanical meters, all of them work, is as they wear, they'll still get water, but it takes more pressure to move those parts. So when at lower flows, if you got a leaky toilet or something, which could be cubic meter a day, you may not even be getting it.
Times that by
Unless you get it at really higher flow.
Yeah.
Other than that, so for the feature side of things, the biggest one, as I understand now, is there seems to be there's some touch reads, there is some drive-by, I think, with some reading system. But when we change all these out, they'll all be using one unified system. So within one day, maybe a day and a half, something like that, however long it takes to get through every street and down. From Public Works, they can drive their vehicle around, pick up all the reads just by driving slowly by the houses, and then bring that back to the city or the town, and they can import it into their billing software, and then nobody needs to be going up to houses and touching touch reads, or in some cases, you might still need to access the houses or the
Right.
businesses themselves to physically read the meters, so there won't be any of that, or it'll all be picked up by 3G radio.
Save a lot of labor.
And it
Wow.
also saves on your future maintenance. Most of the parts that you go outside and touch. So look at the nice weather we've had recently. So all these little black units you see on the house, there's a little piece of potted, like a tire type of material in there that have little tiny wires smaller than a thread. So someone's got to go up and push that all the time. So in this heat, and they're pushing it, it's probably going to start, you're probably getting a lot of maintenance issues with not getting reads. With these, you don't have to. They're all just going to send you.
And it also gives you the history data as well, so if you have a customer that has suddenly their bill goes up a lot and then they're inquiring about it, like you can look at the history and you can see what were they using over the last 90 days, to see when this started, or is it new, is it going on at the same time, or was there a noticeable jump in that?
Good stuff.
Anything else anyone has? For Bill, Eugene? So we'll emphasize again that the 28th, you're going to be back with us. Hopefully those people that are interested to get the information, that's the time to do it. And be open for questions and anything that they require. So the 28th, it's at 6 p.m., I believe. That's right. 6 p.m. here in council chambers on a week from Wednesday. With that, gentlemen, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you next week. All right, thank you. Next council meeting then is, then this is a bit of a change over our normal schedule because of the holiday coming up on the 30th. I think the 30th, am I right in that? I don't have my date in front of me. 31st maybe. Whatever that. Am I correct? No, that's the following month. I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead. Sorry. This is our regular date. 26 is a regular date. Sorry. I'm thinking ahead to September, I believe. We have to change that one.
Yes.
So the next meeting then is a week from tonight, the 26th, here in council chambers, a regular council meeting. PAC meeting is, however, is on Wednesday of this week, right? Police Commission is on tomorrow night. So Police Commission tomorrow night, 6 p.m. here, council chambers.
Full dance card.
Pardon?
Full dance card.
Yeah, it's a busy week. And Planning Advisory on Wednesday. And Planning Advisory could be a rather interesting meeting with some information that we perhaps can divulge for the first time, hopefully, that we've been talking about for a long time in the town. So there will be hopefully some information available that we can put out as a result of that meeting. So plan to attend that if you can, or watch on live stream. With that, no further business. I declare the meeting adjourned.
I know by times we don't have public consultation, but